Good morning and welcome to this Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. joint committee hearing. We are in Capitol Room 225, and this is a joint hearing between the committees on Commerce and Consumer Protection and Agriculture and the Environment. As is always the case, this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube, and we have testifiers participating, I'm told, on Zoom and in the room. And with that, I'll turn it over to my co-chair for the first measure.
Thank you, Chair. We have one measure on the agenda, HCR 161, requesting the Department of Agriculture to convene a working group to review the effectiveness of the relevant state laws governing agricultural-based commercial operations. And first up to testify is Department of Ag.
Good morning, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. We stand on our submitted testimony with the comment that the department does not have the regulatory authority that this resolution assigns to us. As the reso says, though, we did express an openness to participate in the review process, and we certainly will do that once the permitting and the framework of the permitting and what the land use the counties have decided is permitted uses. We agree that, you know, some of these practices like zip lines would be questionable, but we can participate. And one thing we can say is that if, for instance, the roadside stands are within the rules that are established, would only sell or put up for sale some of the department's programs like seal quality products, which we know are genuine, Hawaii made, Hawaii grown, or some of the made in Hawaii products that might be sold. But we cannot govern everyone's products. The permitting would give us a framework. So thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm ready for questions.
Okay. Next is Gil Riviera from Keep the North Shore Country.
Aloha, community members, chairs. Thank you for hearing this today. I live in Wailua, and we have a lot of ag land along a well-transited highway. And what's happening is there are people that buy a piece of ag land, and there's one shop by Sunset Beach, for example, that they sell smoothies, right? It's a plumeria farm, but now they're selling breakfast and smoothies. There's another place where a shrimp farm just moved, and they're basically a restaurant. They're just selling shrimp, but they're not growing any shrimp on the land. Across the street from my house, a guy got a permit. He doesn't have a single plant in the ground right now. And he's got a conditional use permit to open up a coffee and tea shop, pizzas and sandwiches, and some distillates. Because he said he's going to support his agriculture that he's going to do someday in the future. So the county, has to follow the state guidance. And so the county's actually got a few safety valves built into the system. So they're going to require that he actually put some, agriculture in the ground before he gets going. But the whole thing's a farce. It's farcical, and they can bend the rules. So this bill, the law changed in 2011. I think 2012 is when this sort of operation was allowed. I think 12 years on, it's time to review it, find out ways that people are benefiting from it, that it is helping true farmers such as Kahuku Farms, that their value-added stuff in their tours. I don't think anybody objects to that. But what is of grave concern and is only getting worse is the people that are exploiting the lands. They're defying zoning, they're defying planning, they're adding traffic, and it's chaos. So please move this resolution, and hope Department of Agriculture will be part of the solution and help convene all the players. And in previous hearings, there wasn't any opposition to this. Farm Bureau and Herd and everybody else is in support. So thank you for your time today. Mahalo.
Thank you, Gil. Next is Hui O Kamananui. In support, Donna Wong for Hawaii's Thousand Friends in support, Jacqueline Ambrose in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure, either in person or online?
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. So I want to just point out a data point from the United States Small Business Administration Office of Advocacy, which is a federal office. So 99.3% of Hawaii businesses are small businesses. That's 141 460,000. So 141,460 small businesses. Okay. So we don't want to limit the economic potential of small businesses because it provides for economic revitalization, right? And some of the businesses that are happening on agricultural lands just needs a little bit of policy to guide them on knowing like what is appropriate. And so, for example, the county, right, they zone the lands, right? So they have the BMX district, they have the commercial district, they have business district, agriculture, and preservation districts, right? And so when a business is starting and it's operating on, let's say, agricultural lands, and they're starting like a sunflower farm or something, right? And they're having weddings and they're growing pumpkin patches. So that I don't think is a violation of the agriculture zone. And yet technically within the law, it could be. So I think that really could be something that the state works with the county to resolve, because the county has a zoning committee and the Office of Economic Revitalization. And so, you know, if the land is touching, but the boundary line between the two is a business versus like an agricultural land, should you manage that with strict procedure? That can be worked out with the city, right? And the aspects of this resolution, okay, is also something
Thank you,
they're
Angela.
going over in Kapilani Park with the Surf Schools at City Council. Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Members, any questions?
Good question, Department of Ag.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the issues I think crosses all businesses is we got layers and layers and layers of admin rules on businesses, on farms, and some of that, the statutes aren't even in existence anymore. The actual statutory establishment for these rules are either not in existence or they've been repealed, expired. Is this working group going to look at all of these admin rules that have been placed and which ones are basically still effectiveness because the statute's still there, and those that may be in essence that are on the books, but there's no statutory underpinning anymore? Because you guys do admin rulemaking, rules and rules and rules and rules. It seems to me that businesses, agriculture businesses, that's where it's very hard to tackle. So any thoughts on that in the working group?
The parameters of the working group have not yet been established. I read, you know, through the reso, there's a lot of openness, so there's room to move on that. The Department of Agriculture does have the authority for rulemaking. However, it's within the protect and conserve for ag lands, right? This particular reso, I think, has more relevance with the permitting at the county level, and it's outside of our purview. We will participate. We do have a say. We do have thoughts on how we can help, but we don't have the authority to actually look into the county type rules and say you can't do this here, you can do this here. I agree with the previous testifier that it's kind of gotten out of hand, but I believe it's not within the Department of Agriculture's purview to review the permitting. But as I said earlier, once we have the landscape and the formatting and we see where we can fit in, we do have comments and contributory remarks. We can have a little bit of enforcement, you know, with the seal of quality or you know, but we don't have the permitting landscape. So I agree
Hopefully
there.
you can wind that in because it is in your purview. Review of admin rules.
Admin rules is certainly in our purview.
Thanks,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sure.
Senator Richards?
Yeah, thanks, Director. I agree that you shouldn't be involved with permitting or things like that, but that's not what this is asking. This is asking for a review. And you know, as Mr. Rivera talked about, we've got some games being played. that doesn't help agriculture because it actually gives a black eye to bona fide agriculture. And I think, I've talked about the direction for DOA. I think this is in the purview for DOA to help review it, not to necessarily regulate it, not necessarily permit it, but have an evaluation of it. Because in my mind, this falls into the overall mission of what DOA should be doing. So I hear you, but I think this is a good direction to go. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Okay. Chair's recommendation will be to pass as is, and I'd like to note in the committee report that the purpose of this measure is to request more information about the issue while acknowledging that the Department of Ag does not have the regulatory authority within the Ag District to enforce or make changes the working group may recommend. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. On HCR 161, passing unamended, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit is excused. Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Awa is excused. Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
CPN, same recommendation. Chair votes aye.
Thank you. Vice Chair also votes aye. Senator McKelvey,
Yes.
Senator Richards.
Aye.
Senator Awa is excused. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, and that concludes the hearing, the 9:30 hearing.
Morning and welcome to this Wednesday, April 17th, 9:32 a.m. CPN hearing in conference room 225 to consider House Concurrent Resolution 86, encouraging private businesses with 30 or more employees to have an automated external defibrillator on site. There was no testimony submitted on this resolution, so as is our practice in this committee, we will be deferring this resolution, and we are adjourned. Okay, you can bring us in on the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, actually,
We'll-
no, we gotta wait for the House.
Calling the joint Health, Human Services and Commerce and Consumer Protection hearing for the 9:35 agenda. Present with me is myself for HHS, Vice Chair Aquino, Senator Keohokalole, who is Chair as well as a member of HHS, and Member Shimabukuro. Chair Keohokalole, would you like to introduce your members?
Yes, myself, Vice Chair Fukunaga, Senator McKelvey, Senator Richards.
Okay, thank you very much. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business. Room 225, April 18th, 10 to 10:30 a.m. For those on Zoom, your audio will be muted, video disabled until shortly before it's your turn to testify. Each testifier will have 1 minute to testify. If there's a technical glitch during your time to testify, we may have to move on to the next person due to time constraints. I will be reading a list of individuals who submitted written testimony for each measure. We apologize if the closed captioning does not accurately transcribe the names. If you're interested in reviewing the written testimony, please go to the legislature's website. You will find the link on the status page for the measure. We appreciate your understanding. Remind you that the committee does have your testimony. I reviewed them, so I encourage you to use your time to either add additional comments or you can stand in your written testimony. First up, we have Jean Ota testifying for, first up, HCR 5, urging retail stores and pharmacies doing business in the state to adopt a policy on a national and local level guaranteeing an individual's unhindered access to all United States Food and Drug Administration approved contraceptives. First up, we have Jean Ota, Hawaii State Democratic Women's Caucus in support. Next up, we have Thaddeus Pham in support, Ronald Taniguchi, Pharmacy in support, Tina Yamaki, Retail Merchants of Hawaii, providing comments. Retech Sarah, in support. Nobody else having registered. Anybody else wishing to testify in HCR 5? Okay, seeing none, moving on to your
Okay,
Me-
next
your
measure
resolution.
is HCR 53, requesting the auditor to assess the social and financial effects of mandatory health insurance coverage for biomarker testing. The first testifier is Kirby Shaw of the Disability and Communication Access Board in support. We have Cynthia Au of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network in support. Do we have them online?
Yes, I am here. Cynthia Au on behalf of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. I apologize, my video isn't working right now, but we do stand in strong support to HCR 53, and we stand on a written testimony and available for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We also have written testimony and support from the following organizations: the Epilepsy Foundation of Hawaii, the American Lung Association in Hawaii, the International Cancer Advocacy Network, and late testimony from the Alzheimer's Association of Hawaii, all in support. We also have individual testimony, again, all in support from Natalie Nimmer, Cheryl Okuma, Karen Story, Beverly Wong, Michaela McCullough, and late testimony from Jennifer Hausler. Is there anyone else who would like to testify?
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. Biomarker testing. What is the definition of a biomarker testing method? Right, so a laboratory method that uses a sample of tissue, blood, or other body fluids to check for certain genes, proteins, or other molecules that may be a sign of a severe condition such as cancer. So biomarker testing can also be used to check for certain levels of gene or chromosomes, and it can increase a person's risk of developing cancer. And biomarker testing may be done with other procedures such as biopsies to help diagnose cancer. And it can be something of a diagnostic procedure to help with the planning of a medical procedure. And also it makes a prognosis and predicts whether the cancer will advance to like stage 4. So this is also called the molecular profiling or molecular testing. So this is the research from the National Cancer Institute, which is a federal website, cancer.gov. And so this is very important because it will help with improving the quality of health for all citizens in Hawaii.
Thank you. Anyone else interested in testifying? Members' questions? Okay, we'll move to the last measure, HCR 225. Yes,
Yeah.
Senator Richards.
Yeah, do we have the American Cancer testifying?
Do we have Ms. Au online?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question, Ms. Al. Thank you. Question on this biomarking. I can see where by doing this, we get a heads up from a medical standpoint, which would actually save substantial costs going forward if we have a heads up. My concern, have you seen problems with insurance companies if you have the marker treating that as a pre-existing problem, so thereby wouldn't be covered insurance? Are you aware of any legislation that has allowed that to happen?
So this is the first time that biomarker testing is being introduced to the Hawaii legislature. So we haven't seen, any issues with that right now. This HCR is really to allow for the state auditor to do their analysis or report. This has passed in 16 other states. This legislation has passed in 16 other states. It's currently being considered in 12 states currently. But I, at the top of my head, I don't have that information, but I will be readily willing to get that information to your office, especially during the interim or after this.
Yeah, Ms. Howard, I'd appreciate that if you could get it to our chairs. and then they can share it with the committee members. Now, just my concern is that this will actually save us money overall, but we have to make sure that it doesn't get construed that it's a pre-existing condition, thereby it's not included in insurance. So thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Al.
Members, Senator McKelvey.
Before you go, Ms. Alp, you're still there.
Yes,
I
yes.
just want to follow up on his question. Is this the same biomarker testing as the genetic screening that's being done to see if people have a predisposition or a higher percentage of possibility of cancer based on family history and such? Is it the same or is it different?
Thank you for your question. This is different. Biomarker testing tests for mutated genes that may have mutated to specifically, find therapies that target that gene. Genetic testing will test whether or not you have the same genetics as your family, or has it's in your family. So it is different, but they kind of do the same things, but it's very different. One is targeting or to find out what mutation to specifically treat that mutation of disease, and then the other one is to whether or not you have the markers of that disease that's in your family.
Well, I share the same concerns as my colleague here, because I've heard anecdotally that if genetic testing, if you reveal to have a higher percentage, it may be considered pre-existing condition. So I appreciate you getting that information back.
But thank you so much. Yes, I will definitely look into that, and we'll definitely work with the state auditor in his findings about that as well, and to include in the report.
Members, any other questions? Okay, if there are none, then we'll move to the last measure on this agenda, HCR 225, requesting the auditor to conduct a social and financial assessment of proposed mandatory health insurance coverage for step therapy requirements for stage 2 through stage 5 cancer. First up, we have the Office of the Auditor with comments, the Disability and Communication Access Board in support, Laura Figuera and Cynthia Au in support. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Good morning.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. This is requesting the auditor to conduct a social and financial assessment, right? To provide a resolve for the cancer things. Okay, so the hospital operates in a segregated manner than the state, right? So, and then there are also nonprofit and for-profit cancer businesses. So for this idea to be effective, there needs to be an integration that the auditor assesses about the quality of cancer treatment provided at the hospitals, as well as the policies that are being set by the state, as well as integrating the nonprofit and the cancer businesses, right? So I see that the focus of this resolution is on drugs. Oh no, sorry, not drugs. It is on maintaining plans with the health maintenance organizations, but it doesn't specify anything about working with the hospitals, which provides the medical care, the doctor and nurse teams, the diagnostic procedures, imaging scans, MRI, x-rays. The hospital is equipped with carrying out the health procedures, right? And the state sets a policy to guide public health. So within cancer, because it's such an important health concern, there really has to be not a segregated workflow where the hospitals and the state is working in a divided way.
Thank you very much.
They really have to integrate.
Thank you. That's all the testimony we have. Is there anyone else? Okay, members, any questions for CARES? Okay, if not, do we need to recess for decision making? Okay, I'll yield to co-chair for the first recommendation.
Thank you very much. For HCR 5, because the concurrent Senate resolution is moving, Chair's recommendation is to defer HCR 5. Any comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none. Okay, Chair Keokolole.
Thank you very much. The next measure, HCR 53. The recommendation is to pass unamended. Any discussion? Seeing none, Chair votes aye.
Thank you. Vice Chair also votes aye of the CPN members present, are there any voting with reservations or in the negative? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
So for
you.
HHS, same recommendation, Vice Chair, Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Sarah Keokolole.
Aye.
Chair Shubakuro.
Aye.
Chair Alwa is excused. Recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you very much. The last measure is HCR 225. The recommendation is to pass unamended. Any discussion? Okay, chair votes aye.
Thank you. Of the CPN members present, any voting with reservations or objections? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
So for HHS, same recommendation, Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, 4 members are present. Any reservations, any noes? Recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.